watching Your World at 10. Now, as we've been telling you through the course of the day and this show, Anil Ambani made some dramatic comments at the RIL AGM, that's the annual general meeting of shareholders today, calling the Petroleum Ministry's stance partisan towards Reliance Industries and calling Reliance Industries dishonourable.
Reliance Industries Limited's dishonourable conduct in persistently refusing to honour the gas supply contract. 2. The exorbitant profits Reliance Industries is seeking to make at the cost of the power and fertilizer sectors in the country. 3. The apparently biased and partisan role of the Petroleum Ministry. RIL has tried every trick in the book and apparently several outside the book to back out of its solemn legal and contractual obligations.
So, on the big story tonight, we debate not whether the government has been partisan or not, but whether the government is putting itself at a disadvantage by sticking to a fixed price, or intervening rather, in the gas market, in the pricing of gas. Well, joining me to discuss that, Madhu Nainan, the editor of Petro-Watch, and Kuku Paul, associate editor at Forbes India. Both follow the oil and gas policy very, very closely. Madhu, Kuku, thank you very much for joining me. Let me start by getting your reactions on that very emotional, very dramatic speech that Anil Ambani made. Kuku, you go first. Did it hark back to 5 years ago, to long days and long nights?
So it does, Menka. Pain, hurt, emotion,
Ego.
Tears.
Yes.
It has it all the makings of a pot boiler, really.
Yeah, well, lots of comments calling Reliance Industries dishonourable, calling the Petroleum Ministry partisan. Madhu, what did you think?
Yeah, I see this as his first very, very strong statement on this whole fight with Mukesh Ambani out in public. Very strong statement out in public. I don't think he has made such a strong statement before. Indicates his determination to fight it out, fight it out to the very end.
You mentioned the word street fight before we started this discussion. I think that sort of best aptly describes where this is now headed. But let's get to the matter at hand. And Madhu, I'll come to you with the first question, and that is that has the government, in a sense, caught in the vortex of the various subsidies that it is burdened by, and an attempt to provide cheap inputs to the fertilizer and power plants in the country, and by fixing this price, depriving itself of an upside? Assuming that, let's say, gas prices do move up, it would never be able to benefit off that upside through that production sharing contract. And yet, if the gas prices were to move downwards in that sense, then the downstream industries such as power and fertilizer would not be able to benefit from sort of lower prices, so to speak. So, has the government made an even bigger mess by intervening in this entire pricing situation?
No, I don't think so. See, the government has set this price for 5 years. That's one thing which is very clear. Number one. Number two, the production sharing contract gives the government the power to approve the formula at which the prices eventually are decided. So I don't think it has shot itself in the feet by saying that this is the price for 5 years. So you should remember that this price, the gas is going to two priority sectors, mainly to two priority sectors, fertilizer and power, and of course to the other sectors. But these are the two dominant users of this gas at this price. And for 5 years only. I mean, you have, today you have spot RLNG coming into India at $5 per MMBTU. This gas is slightly cheaper. But at the same time, the government's political policy is that fertilizer should get gas at a cheaper price. So I guess it is serving its own political interests in the long term.
Is it really, Kuku? Do you think it's serving its own political interest in the long term? Because, for instance, right now, maybe, the price fixed for that KG D6 basin gas is competitive with the, market prices. But tomorrow, if market prices dipped far lower, the power and fertilizer industries would be paying a higher price in terms of input. So, really, have they sort of got themselves in a bind in this situation? Because I know Madhu says it's only for 5 years, but 5 years is a long time. Prices can move up and down dramatically in 5 years.
But the issue here, Menka, is that the prices are not free. There is no such thing as free pricing in this country. I mean, despite NELP, there are about 5 different prices for gas in the country, but there is no benchmark price as such.
Could we not benchmark it to, let's say, an international price like the Henry Hub price?
Yeah,
or, of course, accounting for marketing and transportation and all of that.
The Henry Hub in Louisiana would be close, but the aim in the government's mind when it started off with the NELP was this, that they would eventually have a free pricing scenario for oil and for gas, and they invited bids on this count.
Right.
But that doesn't seem to have happened, because on the other hand, they have have dug themselves deeper in a hole on the whole fertilizer subsidy and petroleum subsidy issues. So it's almost, it would seem as if on one hand the government sort of gives away subsidy, on the other hand it negotiates, it fixes price.
Right.
So from that point of view, it's caught in a bind, and I think it had no other option but to freeze a price for this.
Okay, what message does this send out, Madhu, for subsequent NELP rounds? We've been wanting to get in international investors, in the last couple of years in the NELP. But when they see this gas fight, they see the controversy around pricing, do you think they're going to be encouraged to come in, invest loads of money in actually mining? Because in a sense, Reliance Industries has taken the big risk of mining those deep sea blocks, of being able to, check whether there is gas or not, producing that gas, and yet the government dictates the price.
Yeah, you're right. It does send out a very wrong signal to investors outside. See, if you see the NELP contract, this is the first NELP contract, NELP 1. The issue on pricing comes in Article 21. Now, Article 21 says that, Article 21(1) says that the government, gas produced from the block shall be sold subject to any gas utilization policy that the government might make. Now, Article 21.3 says that the operator of the field will have the freedom to market the gas. Okay, so you have freedom, but at the same time the government steps in and says today through the empowered group of ministers that here is the gas, we have control over the gas, it is a sovereign gas, we will decide what price it goes to whom, and at what quantity, and even the customers are decided by the government. Surely this sends out very wrong signals. Why would anyone come in and invest loads of money and to be told that, oh no, this is the sovereign gas of the government of India and you have no right to determine the price or the customers or the quantity? I think this calls for a rethink on the part of the government as to why investors are not coming in. If you see after NELP 1, even NELP 1 itself, subsequent rounds also have not had any significant foreign investors. No major foreign companies have come in. There are small companies who are there, but no major companies.
Absolutely. So you have freedom, I have control. On the one hand, I want to cap the input costs for my fertilizer and power industries, because gas is really important to the country. It's a national asset. On the other hand, if prices do drop lower than that $4.50, they will not be able to take advantage of a lower input cost. I am running the subsidy bill and the fiscal deficit is hurting everyone else. It seems like a really poor situation. And to add to that, the government wakes up now and not 4 years ago, when we all knew of the demerger, when this, this contract, so to speak, between RIL and RNRL was made public. It was approved by a high court in a scream of restructuring. It was approved by the company law board by that measure. No one from the government intervened at that point in time, and today they wake up. I mean, they're confused and they're late.
Oh yes, and this has been on for a long time, the whole gas price freeing scenario. If you remember, Menka, it's been about 20 years. There was a Sankar committee and committee after committee trying to free gas prices and bring this. And right now, government is going to embark on its road shows for the next NELP rounds, and there is very little to show for any progress on freeing prices. In fact, we're caught in a tighter bind than we ever were.
Yeah, Madhu, what do you think of the fact that they're not only confused, but they're late and they're doing a disservice to the, the government's own balance sheet by intervening in all of this? Do you think that there is any hope, irrespective of what happens to the Ambani family tussle, any hope in getting any clarity on the way, gas will be priced in this country?
See, first of all, the government should recognize that investors who come in, sink in their own money into the earth, hoping to find hydrocarbons, they are not doing it out of charity. They're doing it for getting returns out of it, isn't it?
Really?
Isn't it? That's the first thing you should get in your mind. Okay, when you get that in your mind, you will come to the second point that yes, they want profits. Fine. How do we go about it? Should we say that yes, you are entitled to profits and develop a market for the gas? Today we don't have a real market in the country for gas. It's an artificial market at prices, different prices, 4 or 5 different prices, some set by the government, some under the old subsidy regime, what is known as the APM. So some of it still lingers on. Some under the new APM, that is set by the empowered group of
Madhu,
ministers.
do you see a solution to this though in the course of the next year or so? Do you see any of this unwinding itself?
Not really, because we are all caught up in this whole issue of the politics colors everything. You must remember that. Subsidy, politics, the whole issue of vote banks. How do you keep your farmer vote banks? How do you keep your urban vote banks intact? How do you avoid displeasing all these vote banks? What is the solution to that? I think this is going to be the case for some time.
Well, I would say that the budget, he has made an announcement that he's going to set up a committee to look at freeing liquid fuel prices.
Yeah.
And gas prices would be an extension of that. But we've been hearing this sort of lip service for the past so many years. And there is, I mean, finally, when it comes to biting the bullet, it's the same thing, that are you willing to let people take the volatility? And the answer is pretty much no. And this is the same problem that several markets around the world governments are facing, because at times people come out on the streets because fuel pricing is a major issue. So it is a question of political will, as Madhu said.
All right, Cuckoo, Madhu, thank you so much. The Ambani fight is just a sideshow. Actually, the real drama is in whether the government will actually find the will to do anything about cleaning up this whole pricing debate and subsidy debate when it comes to fuel prices in the country. And that's going to be most important, because that impacts you and me.